Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Junkwaffel number 1 through 5. And I've been wanting to make a video about these for quite a while now. I'm very excited to finally come around to getting to look at these again. These are some of the first underground comics I ever saw. My brother got them from Bud Plant mail order, and it was just so much fun, and I just fell in love with them. And I must have reread these all like so many times growing up. And eventually I got my own copies, and I pretty much have the majority of what Vaughn Bodé has done over the years. Huge fan. I just love his stuff. And so, yes, it's all Vaughn Bodé. This is all this, a lot of the stuff you could tell, I think, was just like more personal work. A lot of it's just in pencils. You know, it's his Cheech Wizard stuff that was made for like National Lampoon. So he had to like, you know, slick it up, make it nice. And a lot of his stuff. But a lot of these are just like, I think just he loved sci-fi, because there's a lot of sci-fi in here. And he just wanted to make his fun little stories. So here we have number 1. I love this cover. Beautiful. Look at the colors and just typical Bodé lizard going on, and all this crazy sci-fi machinery. He's so good at that stuff. This was published in '71 by the Print Mint, and these are chock full of good stuff. Got a little cute, funny animal inside front cover here. That's great cartooning all around. So good. So we start off with chapter 1 of Tubbs, and as you can see, it's all penciled. I mean, I think he inks the outlines, but, you know, it just looks a little more rough-hewn. Vaughn Bodé loves to just, like, put in huge captions explaining these sci-fi concepts. This one's definitely played for laughs, like most of Bodé's stuff. But it is interesting. He was a total sci-fi geek in a way, where he really, like, explains these sci-fi concepts. And there's stories we're going to look at where, you know, on this video, like, he's full on, like, anal-retentive tendencies of, like, oh, here's the spaceships and here's how they would work. Here's a blueprint of the spaceship that's featured in the story. So he really was kind of a sci-fi nerd, but he was more wanting to entertain and make you laugh using these concepts. So this first story takes place on this planet called Bowling Bean, and in the one of the countries there, it's called Nikipu. And I guess all the world leaders of this planet are convening. Apparently there's this worldwide crisis. They're running out of food. There's just not enough food in the world for all the people. So this guy is, I think, the head of Nikipu, and he's like the moderator. And they call to the floor this other Nikipu citizen, and his name's Brandy Puntlouse. All of Bodé's names are very silly like that. And he's got this idea. Such good cartooning on every page on here. That he knows this scientist who built a time machine, this time tower here. And they're going to go back in time and basically harvest dinosaur meat. Kind of like that 2000 AD cereal Flesh. And they'll have all the meat they can want, all the food they want. Here's the scientist guy. His name's Five Ply. And I guess they're going to send a bunch of Nikipu or world citizens back to time to, like, set up a base so they can just, like, process meat and send it into the future to these people. So here we show off what I was talking about earlier. This is machines. Just want to point this out. This is just a great little cityscape there. That statue. It's really interesting. It's just like all scratchy pencils, but ink outlines, or at least heavy pencil outlines. A lot of the stuff in Junkwaffel's like that. So look at this. He has all these military robots. The Punker Pan Bipod Model 1926. Look at this craziness. Just like cooling station, apparatus trunk, interior inspection light. Like, he really thinks this shit out. The high pocket infantry machine. I love those big flat Bodé feet. So you could probably see like why I loved this stuff when I was like 13. Like I was the kind of kid who loved making lists and really thinking about all these nerdy fantasies about comics and sci-fi. So I was just like, man, this guy's great. The Ramdev weapons platform, the flying weapon, and the steel pimple hover machine. It's kind of interesting. All of these actually have the price tag on them, and they're all like $14.50, which is kind of silly. So now that he's, set us up with this information, and now we begin the story that's going to feature some of these robot characters. So it's basically we're in an underground bunker. This is one of the few remaining humans left in this world. And he's just, scavenging whatever canned food he could find, killing rats and eating them. He's not doing too good. But his whole plan is he's waiting for the robots to kill each other off. And then he's going to come to the surface and spit on their metal hides. So apparently, same old story, mankind invented robots to fight their wars. Eventually, the robots were like, yeah, you humans are just in the way. We're killing most of you. I mean, as far as they're concerned, they are the enemy. So there's barely any humans left. This is just basically one long soliloquy by this guy. It's pretty fun. That's a thing of Bodé. He loves to have this. Everyone talks in this kind of like almost like they're from Brooklyn or something. Like, hey, this guy, you crummy rotten machines. Saying dis instead of this, and man, I love this drawing. So the machines can think now. That's where things went awry. So very much, like all the Terminator type stuff. The robots took over. And now we see the surface. And we just see this epic war scene. All these crazy robots. And I love this how, because they're sentient, we see this one unit, and it's like, Mother Complex, help me, this is baby battery. 300 air attack machines are heading my way. And then we see Mother. I love this, these cannons are like bosoms. And she's like, keep faith, baby. I'm on my way. So she sends off her missiles. And of course, they're sentient to the missiles. They're like, let's do it for Big Mama. And then we see the air attack units about to kill that little baby battery. This is actually really fun war comics. I was really into it rereading this last night. So I guess Big Mama's missiles take out almost all those aircraft, except for 6. And the baby battery is like, Mother, they're still coming at me. And they totally kill baby battery. And I like this. The Big Mama one is like, baby, speak to mommy. And then the aircraft head towards Big Mama. They're going to take her out. And there's her missiles. Another salvo of missiles. Vengeance for Big Mama. And they miss. They miss most of the aircraft. So they swoop in. And she's saying, shriek. They got through, my children. I love his designs. They're so cool, inventive. I mean, they're all goofy, almost like funny animal comics, funny robot comics, but they're just so cool looking at the same time. So they take out Big Mama. There's this one little robot who's like, Mama. Look how cute this robot is. He totally looks like a cute little infant robot. And then this other enemy robot comes along and totally just mercilessly kills this cute little robot. And he gets killed by another crazy looking weird robot. Cartoony robot. And then we end the story with, we just see that guy underground again. Well, we don't see him because he's running out of candles. And once again, he's cursing all the foo-fara going on the surface. Dirt is falling into his food and stuff all the time. Them crummy machines are still at it up there. Damn. So now we have BMH, and this is the same future scenario, narrated by this insectoid-looking robot. Look at just this interesting pencil stuff going on. The same aircraft we saw in the earlier story. And there's just this one guy talking about almost basically killing off the last few humans. I guess there's some humans still alive, and then this one robot community who they became Christian. This robot fort, I don't know how, but they became Christian, so they kind of revere humans, since Jesus was a human and humans are Christians. So the few remaining humans, they've kind of taken into their base, and they kind of revere them and bow down to them. Meanwhile, the whole time they're fighting the enemy. So this narrator's recounting this attack on the base. The enemies are going to take him out. And that's this really kind of poignant ending where they've killed off all the robots. And the humans are still alive. And they gathered in this great room, and they put up a tree and made great noises with words. He says, of course we were going to kill them, but we all felt bad tinglings inside. Like they raised their weapons to kill him, and then they lowered them. And then just basically justified it by saying, the radiation's going to kill him off anyway. Let's just leave him. So it's almost like these robots felt the Christmas spirit. And we're like, we can't kill these humans. Even though normally they have no empathy or, morality at all. And now we see another story from this time. Up in the Steeple, a comedy in 3 pages. And we see 2 of these different type of soldiers. And one of this soldier here, it seems like he's becoming a little too human. He's looking out from this parapet, this giant steeple, and he's saying, oh, look at that bird. Look how beautiful it is. And this robot's just like, oh, disgusting. You sound like a stupid human. It's very un-machine-like of you. And this one, it just keeps waxing rhapsodic about this bird. Like, oh, it's so beautiful. And so the other robot says, I'm tired of you talking about this goddamn bird, and he shoots the bird. The other soldier tries to stop him, but he still wings the bird. And he's distraught over this, the humane soldier. And the humane soldier just keeps going on about, like, it was alive. You shot it dead, you twisted, low-grade rust heap. And he just keeps going on. So this other soldier, he just says, enough of this shit. He kills him. It's like, I'm glad to be rid of this screwball. Driving me nuts with that empathy disease of his. And then we see down on the ground that soldier's laying right next to the dying bird, who's just going peep, peep. Pretty sad. And now we see that same mouse from the inside front cover. Just drawn very sketchily. Look, you can even see the foundation lines. He just left them in. It looks so good, though. Like some beautiful animation sketches, Inside back cover, nice little drawing, very typical Bodé subjects. And guys, look at this fucking gorgeous thing. This says Todd Bodé. So I assume maybe Todd did the sketch and Bodé painted over it, or vice versa. I don't know. It kind of looks like this looks more like the work of Larry Todd as far as figure drawing. But also Larry Todd was really good at painting, but then again, Bodé was too. But this is like sci-fi paperback, professional amazingness going on, but even better. Bodé is so good at his color choices. I mean, you can imagine as a 13-year-old kid just getting into Undergrounds, you know, Arcrum would have been just a little too weird for me. But this is right up my alley. This is like, oh, this could be a cover of Heavy Metal or Epic Illustrated, so sign me up. So now we got number 2. Beautiful colors on this. Another typical Bodé guy. It looks like they have moved to Last Gasp for number 2. Nice little drawing there. And we get chapter 2 of Tubbs. So they're going back in time. This one's even wispier and lighter. I wonder if that's just the printing. But it does look like there's even less shading, even penciling going on. Still looks great to me. Not as good as the first one, though. So, they go back in time to set up this, like, dinosaur processing base. But for some reason, they picked, like, these 2 really moronic soldiers. These 2 guys. One's like a fascist, and one's just a complete incompetent. Just a total cowardly moron. The president of Nicky Poo, he gets in a car wreck on the way there, so he dies. And then his buddy, he's out mourning him, and the 5-ply, the scientist, he is being kind of just totally shitty about it. And so he attacks him, and 5-ply's self-defense unit kills that guy with the weird name. Sorry, I can't remember his name. The guy who suggested the time machine idea in the first place. So now it's just 5-ply and these Nicky Poo citizens. These soldiers are going to go back. And they succeed. They go back in time. There's the little base they've set up beforehand. And then, before they can even get there, these giant, humongous flying insects attack them. Kind of an abrupt ending. It's just the end. Next we get Cheech Wizard. And this is about Cheech Wizard's early days in college at Sorcerer's University. Vaughn Bodé always starts off with stories, a lot of them, with once upon a time at 3:30 in the afternoon on the tiny planet of Summer Mouse. And we see Cheech Wizard being Cheech Wizard. If you've ever read Cheech Wizard, you know, he's a huge prick. He's got this little slave carrying his books around. He's a terrible student. And he gets in fights with his professors. And basically, it just ends up getting drunk with his fraternity brothers. That's another weird thing Bodé always did. He'd just do this a lot of times. Just have a comic strip with just all this space. And, you know, sometimes they do that when something's formatted for magazine size instead of comics, but this is way beyond that. Maybe he did have these little fanzines they put out, or self-printed stuff that was this shape. But there's a lot of comics in his oeuvre that are like this. So this is the Rudolph. And we see these guys, it's the future. And these guys are looking out at these workers. It seems to be this horrible future where just everyone's indoctrinated to just work all the time. Basically everyone's a drone. Of course, there's people at the top who aren't, and they're just like very patriarchal and patronizing. And then this guy shows up, this kind of rebel. I guess has been living out in the wilderness. It kind of looks like that guy from Underground from last issue. And they're all freaking out because he's not wearing his number. He's trying to wake everyone up. He's trying to say basically like, guys, you know, throw off your chains. Wake up from this bullshit. And these guys, his words don't matter at all. They just walk away saying, oh, I just can't believe he doesn't have his number on. That's so weird. Like, that's all they get from his this encounter. All they seem to, that registers with them. And so he keeps trying to riling people up. And people just keep asking him, how come you don't have a number on? And so then the soldiers come out, the cops basically, and you know, of course they don't want him to be stirring up the pot. He claims as he's firing at the cops, I, Rudolph, will topple the sick and human cancer society. I think, because the cops are just like throwing a fucking arsenal at him. And then eventually they kill him. And of course the police say, he wasn't even wearing his number. And that's the final joke once again. It's a lot funnier when you read it. I'm making it sound a little bad. But the two like overlords are like, oh, I heard there was a disturbance today. Something about somebody not wearing his number. So here, once again, guys, I think we've already seen this twice on 2 different videos. It's the very first wonderful Cobalt 60 strip by Vaughn Bodé. This was originally done for Wits End. And I guess, you know, this is Vaughn Bodé's one-man anthology, so he figured, I'm going to reprint it in here. So I'm not going to go over too much since we've already looked at this twice. And the first time in Epic Illustrated, I went over it. But this is just classic, post-apocalyptic, crazy action. A lot of the comics in here, I think, were like random little things that Vaughn Bodé did for other publications, for fanzines, and he's just kind of collecting them. Because so many of them have different styles and different formats. I do kind of want to stop and just reread this again. Great comic. Cobalt 60 is a mutant in this future. And he's fighting the normies, basically. Even though it turns out he's not a mutant. As we find out in the 80s sequel to Cobalt 60. This looks so good. Man, I love all these heavy blacks. Now we get another Cheech Wizard comic. Once upon a time at 2:30 in the afternoon. And this is him back in his student days once again. And he's working on an experiment with his assistant. And the assistant's rebelling. He says, I can't usurp God's divine option. Because Cheech is trying to make like a Frankenstein monster, you know. He's playing God. And this is the guy he makes. It kind of looks like a little demon. Once again, this very pencil-y art. I wonder if these penciled ones were just like rejected roughs, where he sent this to like Cavalier magazine or wherever Cheech Wizard was printed. They were like, we don't want this one. So he said, fuck it. I'll just print it in my own comic. Pretty funny stuff. Here we have more combat action, War Lizard. And so many Bodé comics are like this, just like soldiers in the field, just talking amongst themselves. Even though they're like fucking savage killers. But they just talk like two dudes, you know? Talking about stupid stuff. And once again, notice the weird shape. All this huge gutter. This is a very interesting story as these two soldiers, and I don't even think this is science fiction. This is kind of like Vietnam. Everyone they kill, we see these butterflies fly out of their mouth. Obviously like a symbol for their souls, I assume. But it's just really horrible that they're just going around killing civilians, just being really bad. I think there's one thing I wanted to point out. Once again, the butterflies. So he humanizes these guys, these soldiers who are just complete, killers. Because they just have, small talk. It's almost like how Quentin Tarantino, his thugs and mafia gang members, whatever, guys in these gangs, he humanizes them because they sit around talking about Brady Bunch and whatever. And random things. So this little kid crying. One of the soldiers gets killed, by the way, more butterflies. Sees this kid crying, he's going to rescue him. So it's like the one time he's like doing something good in this war. An enemy soldier shoots him, though. And we see more butterflies coming out of his mouth, and the baby's dead. This toddler's dead. Pretty downer of an ending. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not quite over. And just the carnage continues. These soldiers are just going around shooting civilians. And then they call it an airstrike on this village. And look, we see like millions of butterflies filling the sky from all the dead villagers. And now one of the soldiers is dying. And he knows he's dying because, like, one by one, butterflies are coming out of his mouth, a few at a time. And the other soldier is not dying, says, I wonder where the butterflies go. And we just see them flying away. Nice little drawing there. And more of that kind of stuff. Man, that's nasty stuff. But very well drawn. Yeah, Bodé really hits sometimes. Like, we looked at one of the first videos we did on the channel was The Man. And I gotta say, like, he has all this really ribald stuff and very kind of almost scatological and teenage humor. But then he can really, like, just bring the mood down and just be like, whoa, that's kind of devastating. Here we get a wraparound cover. This one's got a weird, almost like a different style. This coloring, how it's all granular like this. I don't know if this is, I don't know what it is. Colored pencil? Textured paper? Kind of a cool cover, though. It's crazy. Just the design of it, the way the snake is like, the body language of this guy, it's really good stuff. Another beautiful front piece here. That's great. Bodé loved just making up these weird buildings and cities. This one I loved as a kid because it's a superhero parody. It's the Masked Lizard. And this is my suspicion. Part of this takes place in Syracuse University, where Vaughn Bodé went to college. I think maybe this was made for, like, back then, like in 1966, 67, for like a school arts journal or something, because look, the size is obviously reformatted. This giant space here. So I think this is early Bodé, and man, it's really crisp. You know, it's definitely tighter, a lot more detail. I really love this kind of Bodé too. I mean, I like all of it, but this one is beautiful to me. And this is kind of a typical, superhero parody going on. The Masked Lizard. And just like Superman, he was born on this planet Salamandria. He's hatched out into a world of superstition and dogma. He's basically picked to be the sacrificial offering to the sun god. And so they shoot him off into space right towards the heart of the sun. But then a meteorite hits it, knocks it off course. So he lands on planet Earth. Man, look at this beautiful detail. He lives in the sewers under Syracuse University. The CIA approach him and ask him to join them and basically work for them. And they give him a license to kill. And so for 2 years now, he's been fighting the enemies of the United States. So we see Masked Lizard walking through the sewers, and this guy comes out of nowhere, shoots him, and runs away. Meanwhile, back at the CIA, we see these two agents, kind of weird. I love the way this guy, he's got a hook for a hand, and he's kind of torturing this insect, and then he just crushes it. Look at this great cartoony body language here. This is such good stuff. So the Masked Lizard's in that sewer, and he's not dead. I guess lizards have regenerative powers. So the next day, he's healed from his wounds, and he realizes that it's probably Lizard Assassinations Limited, which is some kind of company. And so he loads up with armament, and he heads over there. Look at this. It's like so un-Vaughn Bodé-like, but amazing, but really good stuff. Just look at that well-drawn VW bug even. So he goes in there and cleans house with his Tommy gun. Just lays waste to all these guys. But he's killed all the bad guys, but he ends up mortally wounded. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a few guys left, bad guys left. They nail him to the wall and put hand grenades in his mouth. And then run out. And so it looks like the end of the Masked Lizard. You'd think that, but you'd be wrong. Turns out the Masked Lizard, once again, wasn't dead. So the Lizard Assassination guys, they actually go to his grave. They're like, we're going to dig him up and make sure he's dead. And the Masked Lizard, he set this up as a trap. And so he's waiting behind a gravestone. They dig up the body and they dig up the grave and they're like, his body's not here. And they're like, shit, the Masked Lizard must be out there. So they got their hands up and they're like, please don't kill us. And then after a while, the Masked Lizard doesn't come out. So they get out of the grave and they see him. He fell asleep at the gravestone where he was waiting to kill them. And they dispatch the Masked Lizard with murderous fire from their Russian-made machine guns. And then they bury his body. And if you walked by the grave later that night, you might have heard the muffled singing of our entombed agent. Amen. So just, what a crazy ending. So odd. It's like something from Aeon Flux, where he's got this whole elaborate plan, but he just falls asleep, and that's his downfall. But I love that last panel of this beautiful grave statue. Look at the grass here. There's so much good drawing in this. I mean, I love this Bodé too, later Bodé. But this, to me, I wish there was two Bodés. One to draw like this and one to draw like that. Because Bodé, I don't think ever drew like this again after, his young days. Now we have the Moons of Venus. This is a very typical, Bodé sci-fi fun stuff with the lizards. Kind of just a gag, basically. Here's a crab's ball. And this is almost like a space opera. And we see this villain, Valerie Vox, and her slave. And I guess they're always fighting this crab guy, a famous space stab crab. They're kind of adversaries. And this is also a goofy gag. So they do have some combat. They're fighting each other. And it looks like Valerie gets the upper hand, takes out the engines of Crab. And then her ship, which kind of looks like the head of a penis, goes into his ship, the Crab's ball. And when Crab and his slave, his assistant wake up, they're like, damn, she got us pregnant again. And the ball has a little bulge. Very silly. This guy doesn't look like a Bodé character either to me. That's a very un-Bodé-like, but very good cartoony. Almost looks like a Michael T. Gilbert character or something. This strip is really weird and, once again, a totally different style. And this is called Glein, or Extraterrestrial Occurrences. And so it's such an odd strip. So I think this is just like a pidgin made-up foreign dialect. So this comic gives you the effect that you're watching a weird foreign film that's kind of impenetrable. So this guy's like, but it does sound like a real foreign language. Chord blin juist. Kliget verbroit plinst. So I think it's just a mix-up of all these words. And then for some reason, too, every last panel is not there. I don't know why. It doesn't really add to the story or like make it an interesting storytelling device. It's just weird. So this is just very silly, They're just speaking this nonsense, this gibberish. And these characters are just doing random things. But very well-drawn characters. God, Vaughn Bodé was so good. He's just trying out styles. Yeah, I mean, he died so young, he didn't even have much time to develop as an artist, but he did. He really packed those years with a lot of artistic development. Here we have an introduction from Vaughn Bodé. And I think he's pretty young then, because he says it started last year after I left Syracuse University in '66. And he's telling the story about how he was hit by a lightning bolt. And there was a voice in his head all of a sudden. He said it sounded like Don Adams with a Prussian drawl. And so this is the introduction to the Junkwaffel Papers #1. And this is pretty much just a prose piece, but it's got a lot of illustrations, thank God, because I don't want to read a short story in my comic book. So he basically, Vaughn Bodé claims this is some kind of Valis-like experience he had, where this voice was in his head. Turns out they're from another planet. They want the plans to napalm this planet, even though they have interstellar travel. Their best planes look like World War I, Red Baron type planes. And they don't know how to make napalm. So this guy refuses. He's an engineer, I think. Actually, I think it's supposed to be Vaughn Bodé, even though I guess he was probably just before he became all hippified. And eventually the aliens become more and more aggressive, like sending zap beams to his brain to like hurt him. And then finally they tell him, well, since you won't help us, at midnight tomorrow, we're going to send a massive brain blast at you and blow your brains out. Basically, fry them and kill you. But luckily there's this other guy, this other alien, who jumps in and says, listen, we're going to try to take over tomorrow. When they brain blast you tomorrow, that's going to take so much energy that they'll be vulnerable. I've been the leader of this rebellion for a while. This will be the perfect time. So there's like a 15-second window where once they start blasting you, it takes like 2 minutes for your brains to turn to jello. We'll attack them and hopefully we'll stop them before you're totally dead and fried. And I guess it works. Of course, it's fucking painful as hell. For 2 minutes, it's like, this is excruciating, beyond excruciating pain. Kind of whatever. But it's fun to get these. I think these are really early Bodé illustrations, I would assume. Before like the Man era Bodé and that mass lizard stuff. You have a fun little gag cartoon about a mouse bee. And that's number 2. I'm sorry, that's number 3. So now we got Junkwaffel number 4 here. Kind of nice cover. Once again from Last Gasp. I think this is supposed to be Vaughn Bodé because he's got pens in his pocket. I never knew. It looks kind of portly though, and I think Vaughn Bodé was always pretty skinny. Burdock Brainbuster, the Creature Builder. I really like this. This is really nice penciled art. Very strange little story. These 2 assistants are going back to Burdock Brainbuster. He's like the Dr. Frankenstein guy. They're his assistants. And they're crossing this bridge. And, wait, did I skip a page? No. And then one of them wants to kill the other one for some reason. And is foiled by Burdock. I don't know. Pretty dumb, the story, but beautiful art. It's a weird strip. I think this is... No, I guess this is just a standalone one-pager. Doesn't have a title. And once again, totally different style. I would never guess that was Vaughn Bodé. So I wonder, now I kind of suspect that a lot of this is his early stuff. That he was like, I don't want to put this in Undergrounds or send it to National Lampoon. And so he just decided to collect it here. The collector's portfolio in Tibbet's Tongue. And once again, he totally gets into his world building. This planet called Tibbet's Tongue. In a way, they're very much like humans, even though they don't look like humans. But, the way they act. They're inquisitive and greedy. Love these character designs. It's weird seeing this stuff. It kind of reminds me of like Bucky O'Hare so much. Michael Golden art in that. See, he even has the weapons, their caliber. It's kind of crazy. But they're all in really cool looking inventive designs. The Tibbet High Altitude Life Support System. And he thought out every little thing on this. Now here's a Tong ball. So basically Tibbet's Tongue, that's the name of the planet. They've developed these war machines to conquer the rest of the solar system. This solar system has like 8,000 planets in it, all revolving around one sun. And once again, look at him. UHF, VHF antenna, navigation light. Just so kind of anal and crazy. He shows us the rear view, a cutaway view. I love this kind of madness when artists do stuff like this. And this is just nuts. I actually read all of this last night. It's not even like jokes are put in there. It's not even like funny or anything. It's just like, no, if I made a spaceship, this is what I put in it. Oh my God. Tongue ball variations. We got the camouflage. All very interesting looking though. I remember, it's so weird how so much is coming back to me looking at these, because I reread these comics over and over. I remember I used to love drawing spaceships like this, like cute little spherical flying machines. I would always do that in my notebooks when I should have been paying attention in school. So now we have Cobalt 60. I think this is the only other Cobalt 60 story that Vaughn Bodé ever did. And it looks like it's not really finished, like it's just the light pencils. So much more script. It's almost like a heavily illustrated story, prose story. So typical Cobalt 60, you know, he's just riding around this post-apocalyptic world. And he sees a figure approaching him. And he's got his gun ready. And it's a human. Basically sworn enemies, you know, a non-mutated human. He pulls his gun on Cobalt 60, and Cobalt 60 gets the drop on him and kills him. They talk about how, you know, in this apocalyptic world, there's still little pockets. I think they're gone now, but they last a little longer. So almost just like Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter M. Miller. There's these little monasteries that have preserved the last bits of human knowledge, and you can see their abandoned buildings here and there. So Cobalt 60 is heading towards one of these, and I think there are supposedly some people alive in here. So he's very wary. He sneaks up on this fortress, and then all of a sudden he hears voices. And he hears some, humans talking about these priests and a woman. And the priests are going on about how this is the last woman who can bear fruit, human fruit, like the seed. She's actually fertile. I guess not many humans are due to radiation. And Cobalt 60 knows what he has to do. And it's interesting because in this prose, he does talk about how, Cobalt 60 is fully evil. But even though these guys are evil too, they go on killing all the mutants. So he just barges into this room and kills everyone. And kills the woman. This basically innocent, beautiful woman. And but he's like, oh, I can't have her breeding, making more humans. I like this writing here. Cobalt holsters his weapon like a zombie and stumbles away from his horrible play. He is elated. He is sick. He is a monster in a world made by the thing he destroyed. He staggers out into the night like a drunk. He doesn't see the cavalry coming. Doesn't even notice. He sees a bright star. Venus, he mumbles. And that's how it ends. This pretty devastating shit. Man. Here we see some more cute little bulbous spaceships. Here's just a little one-page gag sci-fi strip. And here we have this another kind of prosy story about Larry Stickletodd, this lizard guy. And he wasn't always a lizard guy. He was a human being. That's how he knows he's dead, he says. He says, I'm a lizard all of a sudden. I must be dead. And then a week after, his death, he meets God, who looks like this giant frog. And he's like, why'd you turn me into a lizard, God? And God says, because I'm not allowed to eat humans. And then he gobbles them up. I really like that panel. It's really nice. And then so basically he's chomped and chewed and crushed by God's teeth, swallowed, and then within God's body, there's this whole environment. And he sees this island in his stomach. It's almost like a cancerous growth that looks like it's popping out of his stomach juices. And on top of this little island, he hears an organ and happy singing, dancing black lizards. And we see these two other lizards. And I guess they're like, oh, who's this white lizard, this honky lizard? They don't like him. But it appears to be that, like, Larry is full on dead now. Like, he's just a bloated body. So they're throwing rocks at him. Then they eventually say, hey, we could float on him. He's all full of gas. He could be our little life raft. And after a few days of doing that, they start to like Larry, even though Larry is a dead body. They became fond of Larry. They forget all about racial justice and just paddled him around inside God's magnificent stomach. A very strange little story. I like Bodé's lettering. It's not the most clear. It's not the most just precise, but it just really adds to his cartooning. It is kind of sad though. He misspells a lot of words. Like way more than your average comic. He just didn't know how to spell that well. Here, once again, that like kind of crisp style, almost like clear line. Some of this almost reminds me of like Juiced Suerte, if I'm saying that right. And this is just another silly gag strip too, but oh, look at this perfect, precise cartooning. I love it. Gorgeous shit. And then totally different style. And then look at this, guys. Jeffrey Catherine Jones and Vaughn Bodé collaborating. I still don't really know what's happening in this painting since I was a little kid. I guess just this warrior woman holding a shield. I don't know why she's screaming or yelling. But man, that's nice. So I didn't have this issue when I was a kid. In fact, I think it came out in 1988. So Barbara Bodé, Vaughn Bodé's widow, she got the rights to all of his stuff. So she figured, I'm going to keep putting out all this. There's lots of lost Vaughn Bodé stuff that was never published. I don't know about this cover, where it originally was made for. So this is Junkwaffel 5. We have a little editorial from Barbara Bodé. And then we have these military lizards. God, that's a just beautiful, perfect cartoon to me. That's so great. And now we see these military lizards, the Junkwaffel invasion of Cruppenny Island. And this is a very typical Bodé story, this weird alien world. And we just see these Junkwaffel lizards invading this Toad Island, Cruppenny Island. And it's very, like, kind of realistic combat as far as, like, the grittiness of it. It's definitely not like a Robert Kanigher shorts, Sergeant Rocktail. So much captions, though. I think Vaughn Bodé probably wanted to write short stories. It seems like he was a frustrated short story writer. But just because his lettering is so appealing to me, I don't mind it as much as most comics where they have these huge blocks of text. And this it almost adds to the beauty of the graphic design of each page. Like, that just looks so good to me, all these pages. Just very pleasing to the eye. Look how solid these blacks are. Just really nice stuff. And we have more similar stuff, the war lizards. And these are just one pagers, 3-panel strips. They're basically just like war humor. Oh man, this one's so nasty. They're like, hey, so did you guys have, fuck Claptrap Annie? Yeah, I fucked Annie. The whole platoon did. She got a little baby, We fucked that too. It's like, oh man. And like I was saying about his dialect, we fucked that too. Everyone talks like they're Bugs Bunny or something. Such good drawing. You can totally see why Bodé, is still revered. Such a unique artistic vision. And this one, is not a gag. It's just a horrible, tragic thing of war. This guy's guts are coming out, and he says, Mama, I want to go home now. I don't want to play no more. That's the gag, I guess. Now we have this one called No Name. I just realized, I hope this is all in camera. I might have to move this a little. Sorry if some of this is getting cut off, guys. And once again, very prosy story. This is my favorite Bodé art, but it's still fucking great. Look at that. That's terrific. It's kind of a very odd story. It's almost like a little fairy tale. This no-name character. That's their name. They don't know their real name, and they're walking through these caverns, and there's these mushroom people. I mean, they're mushrooms, but they can sing and yell. And there's like this big mama mushroom. Not my favorite one in here. These are really nice. These, I don't know if he was trying to develop a Sunday comic strip with Junkwaffel. And it's all the typical Bodé stuff. These lizards kind of in combat. But this is just like perfect Bodé to me. Just yummy looking drawing. And, it's a gag strip. So this is apparently a daily strip he was developing, Zooks, the first lizard in orbit. And, each strip here is like a cute little gag, but the story kind of continues as two. And it's about this guy who's going to be the first lizard in orbit. And, of course, hijinks ensue. God, that would just be so surreal if this got picked up by a syndicate back then. And like all through the 70s, people were reading, getting a daily dose of Vaughn Bodé. I could totally picture this art style. At least the art style. It would totally work well on a 70s comic strip page, a Sunday paper or a daily paper. And, of course, he tones down the humor. There's nothing raunchy in here, for the most part. So he was really trying to get picked up by a syndicate. Just like those Cheech Wizard strips we saw in Epic Illustrated. I guess for a while, that was his, he was trying to do that. These are really nice. I'm glad Barbara Bodé found these probably in a drawer somewhere, They're not that funny, but I mean, for a comic strip, and this in the paper, it's okay. Better than a lot of those stupid comics, But it's very toned down, as you can imagine. It has to be. I'm not going to get into every gag here, but basically it's just him in space and all the various shenanigans that go on. Oh, if you're a Bodé fan, this is just beautiful stuff. That was such a thing of Bodé doing the panels and then the word balloon outside the panel completely. Almost as if it was a caption. How many cartoons have ever done that? I mean, obviously recently we've been looking at some of his, imitators in Andromeda, like Don Marshall and Tom Nesbitt. But other than that, no one really ever did this before or after. It was a technique that he developed, and then it kind of just died with him. Oh, this looks so good. This is so much better than Mark Trail and Mary Worth. I love getting to see weird stuff like this. So rare and hard to believe that, he was doing submissions like that. The Amorous Adventures of Puck. These are all one-page adventures. I don't know if these were for, like, Cavalier, I bet they were. He did a lot of work for those lower-tier men's magazines in the 70s. I don't think he ever worked for Playboy. And these are all just, like, kind of sexy gags. This guy, Puck, he wears a wooden dildo all the time. I don't know why. Once again, this is a totally different style. In fact, this looks like some of his imitators. Like, this could be a Dennis Fujitaki drawing. I wouldn't think this was Bodé, actually, if I didn't know. Like, trying to draw more straight, like... Which I could see if Vaughn Bodé lived. He might have, he loves sci-fi so much. Maybe he would have wanted to, like, just make a real sci-fi. Like, not funny, not goofy. So, I could picture him, like, having European album-style graphic novels of sci-fi, great sci-fi stuff. That would have been nice. And speaking of sci-fi, that's a great, great spaceship. Once again, very spherical. And also a different style. And then look at that. There's some Bodé for you. That's pretty typical Bodé too. Oh man, I wish there were more of these. I love these comics so much. And rereading them last night, I realized it's not all nostalgia. Some of the stories, sure, are kind of goofy, like most undergrounds. There's some stories that are like, okay, you're just being silly. But man, Bodé's so good. So hope you guys enjoyed looking at these. I've been waiting to show these to you guys for a while. I try not to have like similar artists or the same artists that close to each other. So yeah, I figured it's been a year and a half since we looked at Bodé with The Man, that first video we did. And I'm like, fuck that. I want to show these off. I'm not waiting any longer. So hope you guys enjoyed looking at them as much as I liked rereading them. And I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.